It's Saturday the 23rd of July 1938. The annual Northwich Working Men's Saturday Hospital Committee, the forerunner of our present Northwich Carnival. But this time the event is being filmed with a new technology by Cheshire County Cinemas Limited, who ran the Regal and the Plaza Cinemas. So the cameras are lined up in front of the spectators, who rather nervously grin, unsure how to react. Some seem more at ease with the cameras than others, as they come to grips with the new technology. So the spectators are lining the route from Northwich Station all the way to Greenbank. Even time for some late arrivals. This isn't the Trumpton Fire Brigade, this is in fact the Northwich Fire Brigade, making their way slowly through the town in the bullring. A wide variety of characters and groups assemble on their route to the ground at Greenbank. So we have some of the country's leading dance troupes and dance bands from as far away as St Helens, Oldham and Flint, as well as school parties and characters. We'll see more of them later. Here outside the Talbot Hotel, on the corner of Timber Lane, we see more spectators eagerly awaiting the arrival of the procession. Among the bands involved we have the Harris Head Jazz Band and the Weaverham 1938 Dinkies and the St George Prize Band from Liverpool, as well as the Commodore Jazz Band from St Helens, the Barnton Silver Prize Band and the Surprise Jazz Band from Stratford. Here at the corner of Station Road and Victoria Road, more crowds are assembled. And the collecting tins are out. In fact, the crowds raised over £25 in the collecting boxes during the day. The Carnival King, Mr Garnett, whose arduous task it was to call round public houses in the vicinity and collect money in the weeks leading up to the gala. He managed to raise £5 over the £25 already collected. The dance troupes are very happy in these pictures, although the local newspaper reports that they mutinied as soon as they appeared at the showground, staging a sit-in in protest against the judges. Happily all was resolved amicably in a short time. The local newspaper also reports that these elaborately garbed characters had come some 26 miles to take part in today's proceedings. But sadly at the showground they were shown to the wrong area of the pavilion and they missed out on the judging. But nobody minded, we're told. There were more than 200 children in costume at the event. Back at Victoria Road, we can see crowds lining the station bridge. Ashworth's Cafe in the background, and an old milk float as well. Returning to the bullring were fancy dress prizes. And here we have the Carnival Queen herself, Miss Florence Beresford from Castle, and she was the first to be selected by a committee. Another of the elaborately garbed characters we mentioned earlier, obviously enjoying the good weather. The weather, though, had not been good in the days leading up to the fete. The field used at Green Bank, near the station and where Green Bank Estate was later built, had been under hay only a few days earlier, and the Carnival Committee had to arrange the mowing and gathering, which was late due to bad weather. Here we have Mayor C.W. McCormack of Northwich Urban District Council preparing for the crowning ceremony. The Flower Girls, including Beryl Foster and Margaret Stringer, and Mrs. Small chaperoning Florence Beresford to take her place on the stand. Young Peter de Chasse was the crown bearer. And here we see Miss Renée Franz Hayhurst, ready for the appointed hour. Miss Beresford, the Carnival Queen, we're told, wearing a dress of ivory satin trimmed with diamante and a medieval robe of crimson silk velvet trimmed with ermine and carrying a bouquet of crimson roses. Presents for the Queen included a barometer from colleagues at Lomas and Spencer and a canteen of cutlery from the Ladies' Committee. Other events at the showground included a harmonica band recital and a baby show, as well as all the fancy dress competitions. The Carnival King there, Mr. Garnett, takes his bow. Here are some of the fancy dress competitors. We can see from the signs that these included Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. There's Colonel Franz Hayhurst, the local squire. And here's one of the characters we saw earlier in the bullring. Here we see Mr. Walker from Runcorn, who won first prize for his battleship in the hand-drawn vehicle category. Ice cream and refreshments are on hand, but be careful what you do with your ice cream. You never know who or what might take it. And the main event was the Bonnie Baby competition with 69 entries, judged by Dr. Sinclair, Sister Dutton and Miss Hope of the County Nursing Association. Children up to the age of 3 were eligible. The prettiest baby was judged to be Alan Roughsedge of Jubilee Street. Under 12 months, William Bates of London Road. Under 2 years, Brian Gittins of Sandy Way. And under 3 years, Terence Brown of London Road. And Dr. Sinclair awarded a special prize for twins to Frank and Kenneth Ashworth of Albert Place. And the proceedings come to a regal end. Okay, this next film takes place 7 years after the preceding one. It's the summer of 1945. The Urban District Council of Northwich is trying to make the town a place fit for heroes to return to. And they made this short film to illustrate conditions in the town and how they intend to improve them. So we start off in Whitton Street. This is the section leading up towards the station. You can see the Green Dragon Hotel in the middle, which is the only building in this stretch to still stand today in 2013. Neighbouring properties such as the old Lord Nelson Inn, seen here on the left, and the houses next to it are more than 100 years old and showing signs of wear. Northwich's subsidence problem continues. You can see that the building on the left has to be supported by an iron bolt through the middle. The solution of timber frame buildings has its limitations, as we can see here. The area between the station and Church Road is particularly badly affected. Here only the Cock Hotel in the middle has survived, and that was because it was rebuilt in 1932 and was more modern than the rest. Moving on towards the station, none of the buildings in this section have survived. They were all demolished shortly afterwards in the 1950s. The council survey in 1943 found that there were 192 houses that were unfit for human habitation, such as these. This is the point where the dual carriageway of Chester Way now cuts through Station Road. Very poor conditions in the town at the time. You can see here the back of Hadfield Street. There were buildings here that had recently been demolished due to the subsidence, and immediately across the road, the old Methodist Chapel, which was taken down in the 1970s, and Isaac Robinson's garage. Local residents may remember Huff's Chemist on the corner of Hadfield Street, with their radio shop next door. And here's the station entrance itself, which has changed very little. Going back to where we first started the filming, we have Brook Street, built as Carter's Place in the 1870s. The shop on the corner was Benjamin Snelson's sweet shop. As we continue up Carter's Place, properties on the left were among those earmarked for demolition. As we move up towards Ash Street, which has still remained, and John Platt's grocery shop on the corner, you can see Whitton Bank in the background. This was an early Victorian construction, and although substantial for its time, by 1945 it was showing signs of wear. You can see from the doorstep here. Old Warrington Road. Not a single one of these properties still stands, but while the residents celebrate the end of the war, the council are already sealing the fate of the properties that we can see here. Some of these date back as far as the first decade of the 19th century. As well as being tiny, they're very poor construction. Some demolition work had already begun before the war. see the peculiar angles that Northwich is famous for in its buildings, and what would now be considered slum conditions at the rear. We should remember, though, that these were homes to many of the residents who looked at them fondly despite the conditions and made the best of bad circumstances. This is Oak Place behind Whitton Street. You can see the Plaza Cinema in the background. Moving on over the station towards Greenall Road, this view has changed very little since 1945, except perhaps for the telegraph wires on the right and the old railway signals. This was an example of the type of property that the council felt needed replacing. Although, as you may be aware, they're still here in 2013, so these managed to survive the bulldozers. These views have changed very little. You might almost mistake this for the opening titles of Coronation Street, but these were the conditions at the time. The backs of Victoria Road, Greenall Road and Albert Place. As the caption says, these two houses here had 7 feet wide living space each. The council subsequently bought the properties and merged them into one. Nearby at the station, we catch a glimpse of shops lining the railway station bridge that have been demolished in the 1960s. Reese Brooks Photographers, Jack G's Cycle Shop, and we see Slade Street in the distance on the other side of the railway. On the station bridge itself, quite a hazard to be found. An old entrance to the station alighted straight onto the main road, leading to some narrow scrapes for pedestrians. The council first planned to build permanent houses in Dean Street in August 1939, when Samuel Hutton started laying the foundations. They paid £1,400 for an 8-acre site. But the war intervened and all modern housing development was stopped for a while. So it was only in the summer of 1945 that work could resume. Here we see the foundations being laid for what they decided would be prefabricated buildings, intended only to last 10 or 15 years. In the background we have the water tower, which is situated where Tesco's is now. Despite their flimsy construction, the houses were desperately needed, and there was a large waiting list for local residents, mainly moved from the Whalley Road area and the Yorkshire buildings. They went up with remarkable speed. In a period of only 3 months, a total of 70 properties had been erected. By using a variety of local builders, the council were able to get as many houses erected in as short a time as possible. It was September 1946 when works first started in the houses we see here. Unfortunately, this severe winter of 1946-1947 delayed the construction, and these were used to rehouse families mainly from the Whalley Road area. They were considered the pinnacle of achievement at this time. Here's the Dean Street houses completed, shiny and new. These were intended to last for 10 to 15 years. In fact, they lasted until 1971, a total of 26 years, when they were finally replaced by further prefabricated buildings, which themselves had to be renovated in the 1990s. However, they provided cheap accommodation for local residents. This is Brookfield House on Manchester Road. We can see the backs there. Here we have some very rare footage of the Yorkshire buildings. This is the site of the Memorial Hall and its car park to the rear, and it was originally a site of the Northwich Fair from the 1780s until the 1840s, when large numbers of cheap houses such as these in York Place were erected. These were considered the worst housing in the town, and they were demolished shortly after that film was taken. So we move forward to the 1960s, and the Town Council have exciting plans for Northwich once again. A complete modernisation of the town centre, so that 60,000 people who come to Northwich to do their shopping can do so in modern, comfortable conditions. We see here a snapshot of the things to come, and things as they were. These pictures were taken by John Clark, the town architect. Provide a montage which leads us nicely into the next section of film. Students of Sir John Dean's were employed by Northwich Town Council to document the town and the changes that were going to take place. We start off with the Market Hall. Its origins were as early as 1848, with an extension in the 1870s. It was fondly remembered by Northwich residents. It's on the site of the present outdoor market and dominated the shopping scene. As we pan along the Northwich skyline from the top of the gas holder, going towards the town bridge, you can see that most of the properties are of timber frame construction. Crowded, cramped conditions, not fit for a modern town in the 1960s. Joey Ullman, his shop at the bottom of Winton Hill, still fondly remembered. As we pan over towards Dane Street from the Bullring had been rebuilt in the 1920s to cope with the subsidence. See the future marina site with the Regal Cinema in the background. And the Hayhurst Bridge. Its counterpart, the Town Bridge, at this point 70 years old. With a nice aerial shot from the top of the gas holder. Little's Timber Yard had been moved from its position in the town centre to Barons Quay. Panning over here from Whalley Road over towards the old fire station, just hoving into view on the right. And you can see the North Western buses and Crosville buses from the old bus station. These shops had just been completed in 1963 on the site of the old Talbot Hotel and the Methodist Chapel and the old Castle Cinema. Here we take a journey through the town, starting on the new dual carriageway outside what would be the future police station, heading up Meadow Street. A familiar situation. Traffic problems still remain, especially for cyclists. who took their life in their hands in the traffic in the town. We head up now. You can see the Roebuck Hotel on the left, just past the Plaza Cinema. And we're now where the last film began, outside the Green Dragon at the junction with Church Road. Houses such as these in Paradise Street, although not that old at this point in time, only 60 years old, earmarked for demolition to improve traffic access through the town. I don't think the big three in the caption were these children here, who were at least enjoying the mayhem to come. Construction begins first with the new Market Hall, while at the same time houses such as these in Church Walk and John Street were being demolished. On the corner we have the old chip shop on the corner of Meadow Street here. No bulldozers involved at this stage, it's all demolition by hand. A long and painstaking process, and rather hazardous. Only the tipping of the rubble was mechanised at this point. Here we go. This is an excellent shot panning along from Meadow Street, showing Bevington's sweet shop, the doctor's surgery, and the houses in John Street, heading up towards Timber Lane. From the same area we have the Penryn Arms, standing next to the old police station. The foundations are going in. You can see New Street with the Penryn Arms at the top, the Memorial Hall on the right, as we head back to the Bowl Ring, not much remains of the shops, front or back. This is the back of Bratt's shop in Whitton Street, which used to be the site of the new shopping centre. The new Market Hall takes shape. Here's the old premises standing next to the old Market Hall. This small section was preserved in the rebuild. The Bleeding Wolf stood opposite the new Market Hall, but sadly its days were numbered. Here's the old Market Hall that we saw initially with the Bleeding Wolf next to it. Nice shot with the new building ready to take their place. This is the grand opening of the new Market Hall on Thursday the 5th of May 1966. The new building cost £103,000. And this is the grand opening ceremony with the Town Mayor Chris Moore introducing the proceedings, with assembled local dignitaries from Northwich Rural District Council, Runcorn Rural District Council, Midwich Urban District Council and Winsford Urban District Council were in attendance, and the proceedings were hosted by Will Lewis, manager of the Memorial Hall. Chief guest was County Councillor Harry Mather, whose job it was to open the new building. The Northwich Guardian did not report in full Councillor's speech, but I think we can imagine pretty much the sort of thing he would say. At the moment, Councillor Mather will unveil the grand plaque. Which is still there today, actually a replacement for the original wooden plaque. Councillor Harry Mather ready to get the proceedings going and cut the ceremonial cord. The ceremonial scissors will be presented to him by Gilbert Hankinson, managing director of the firm who built the hall. And for the first time, the assembled throng make their entrance. After the festivities were over, the students took these shots. But of course, now the new hall is built, the old one is no longer required, and the inevitable demolition commenced. We can see health and safety rules were not quite the same in the 1960s as they are today, with shoppers being able to pass freely underneath while the work was carrying on. However, we can get a good idea of the timber frame construction from these shots here. You can see the upper galleries and the fretted roof work, all of which sadly had to go, the council determining that it was unfit for purpose. The outdoor market carried on just a few feet away. Some of the original beams from the hall are still preserved in Vickers Way Park in Northwich. So looking from the new to the old. Elsewhere in the town, the Memorial Hall, built in 1960, stands gleaming and reasonably new at this point. Nearby, the old police station, dating from the 1890s, also serving as a magistrates' court. It too would soon be claimed by the bulldozers. Work starts on a new roadway linking the Bull Ring with the Memorial Hall, which is going to be called Watling Street. The subways are the first to be built. See the Penryn Arms still standing. And here's the new market area and cafe. Panning towards the new Watling Street, you can see at this point some of the buildings in the town centre have now been cleared. And the preparations are underway with the foundations for the police station going in. This is the area of the Yorkshire buildings we saw earlier. As we pan over, we see the Memorial Hall, gleaming anew, next to the old police station. The town's gas holder, fondly remembered by local residents, survived until the 1980s. And is a useful landmark when charting these quite drastic changes. Work on the subway was interrupted for a time when they discovered sand instead of the soil they were expecting. It turned out that a loop of the River Dane formerly ran through here, so extra precautions had to be taken to shore the area up. This is foundation for the council offices at Watling Street, which would be immediately opposite the new Market Hall. Further work carries on in Market Street, with the old Market Hall having been completely cleared and the outdoor market ready to take its place. This is more of the police station, a sturdily constructed building. The familiar triangular roofs of the shopping precinct taking shape. With the old Bratton Evans store in the background. They were not the only buildings to be replaced. The site of the future Guardian offices on the corner of Market Street and Crown Street. The old Fox Hotel. And the new council offices viewed from the now completed subway, looking very much as it does today in 2013. Now, the police station's other purpose as a magistrates' court is also going to be delegated to a new building, which was constructed immediately next to it. Here we see the steelwork going to position. The Penryn Arms, still at this point clinging on, but not for much longer. The marketplace taking its now familiar form. And the Penryn Arms falling victim to the demolition squad. This was originally a farmhouse built in the 1780s in what was then New Street, but by 1969 it had outlived its usefulness. It's now the site of the car park next to the Seafair restaurant. Improvements have been made at Castle too, near the junction with the Hayhurst Bridge. See the old Central Theatre in the background and the Castle Cinema in the foreground. Dutton's Tannery at Northwich was also being demolished at this point. Shops themselves are now visible, and the completed police station. Just a few finishing touches to put in. This would be the police headquarters for the Northwich division, standing opposite the newly completed council offices. We see the Old Dame Bridge in the background. Here's the Station Bridge, where the shops belonging to Reese Brooks and Jack G had recently been demolished to widen the bridge. Road widening was also taking place at Northwich. Here we're outside the Weaver Hall Museum, heading up towards the Crescent, where dozens of properties in London Road had been demolished to make way for the road widening. Some artistic touches taking place in the market area, with at this point a strange juxtaposition of the old and the new. This is the wall of the future information centre. And you can see the subway just in the background there. This is viewed from the car park of the Seafarer, at the site of what used to be Timber Lane School. And here we see the shops completed, with the distinctive pyramid. Marks and Spencer and Woolworths also had extensions to their premises built as part of this development. We see the Memorial Hall, the old police station, and the new Magistrates' Court just coming into being. This would last for 44 years until it too was demolished in 2013. The bull ring viewed from the gas holder. Panning along, showing the Fox Hotel still standing. This is the site of the bus terminus in 2013. Most of the work now having been completed. Left to local residents to find their way around the maze of new buildings and new roadways. The bull ring here, though, not looking too dissimilar to the very first film we saw, with the carnival taking place. Back to London Road, the widening work having been completed. And now the inevitable destruction of the old police station. Again, no longer required. Built by Cheshire County Constabulary in 1891, it served the town for 3/4 of a century before being surpassed by new buildings. This footage actually filmed from the roof of the new Magistrates' Court next to it. As we pan down, we can see the original doormat for Cheshire County Constabulary. Demolition here, still a quite hazardous process for those involved. No hard hats. Quite a manual process. All of these buildings, of course, gone in 2013 to make way for the new Memorial Court. The embers of the now destroyed police station standing next to the subway. This area is the site of a salt works in Victorian times, Barons Croft. And a final survey of the scene. So we move on. It's the summer of 1969. The work has been completed. The shops are starting to open. The shoppers are starting to find their way through the town. New streets with strange sounding names. Market Way, Witten Walk, Town Square. The shoppers brave the heat and go exploring the new premises. newly extended Woolworths and Marks and Spencers are ready for business. The co-op has moved in. It's the 21st of July 1969, famous throughout the world as the day that man first set foot on the moon, but famous in Northwich as the day when the new shopping precinct would be opened. A very special guest is set to be welcomed into the town. The bunting is out. Some of the shops are being converted into displays and exhibitions specially for the occasion. We can see here Hertford secondary boys demonstrating the crafts with archery in the next building. So, some people are overcome by the excitement as the crowds foregather. New outdoor market where a special event is due to take place. Can you guess what it is? The local dignitaries assemble and a brass band plays outside the Memorial Hall and the new Magistrates Court. Honoured guests from far and wide crowd into the stands to welcome the distinguished guest. The local law enforcement officers out, keeping everyone safe and in order. Town's MP, John Foster, who served from 1945 to 1974. Crowds are even allowed on the balcony of the new police station. You can see the old co-op building in the background there. Ladies in fashionable hats. And the town's oldest resident. More of whom later. The tension mounts. The police are on hand to help even the youngest of residents. The Bishop of Chester arrives for the proceedings. He'll be giving a prayer of dedication for the new Magistrates Court. And here is the special guest. Royalty, no less. The Lord Lieutenant Lord Leverhulme opens the car door to let out Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Kent, the Queen's first cousin. Duchess is led through the brand new subway by Councillor Ron Carey, who told the local newspaper, the Northwich Guardian, that he was performing the most important function the chairman of the council has fulfilled within living memory. Reporting that the Duchess was so friendly and interested in everything, it made his duties a real pleasure. And here we have the Duchess being introduced to Mrs. Sarah Ann, or Granny Parks, 104, the town's oldest resident. She later said, "It was a wonderful day for me. I've never seen a member of the royal family before, but I'm getting a bit deaf and couldn't hear all she said to me." So after a quick tour through the new precinct, the Duchess performs her first civic function in the town. Which is, of course, to plant a tree. Something all members of the royal family are highly trained in. Years of training have been required for this moment. The tree, incidentally, still stands, at least in 2013. And the Duchess is now led back through the market hall, heading towards the Magistrates' Court. And Mrs. Parks leaves the scene, her duty is done. Duchess now approaches the court and being introduced to local dignitaries. As the crowds watch. She enters the court building, where she's to unveil yet another plaque. Here's the bishop giving the dedication. And the band plays on. Inside the court, the Duchess has come to sign the visitor book. Still accompanied by Councillor Carey, one of the longest serving councillors on both Northwich Urban and Northwich Town Council, its successor. Sadly, the visitors' books seem not to have survived, so we don't know exactly what the Duchess wrote. Now we head to the Memorial Hall for a private lunch. Quick word with the band. The Duchess gave a short speech at the lunch, and the Northwich Guardian reports that she was served with specially imported Chanterelles melon from France, salmon from France, salmon, raspberry meringue and assorted Cheshire cheese. Here we see Councillor Carey presenting the Duchess with a silver salt crusher. In memory of her great-grandfather Sir John Brunner, who founded Brunnermond, the forerunner to ICI. The day proved exhausting for all the crowd, with 50 patients treated by the Red Cross and St John's ambulance, mostly suffering from heat exhaustion. And the Duchess heads off for her next duties in Altrincham, bringing the day to a successful end.